Hi and welcome to the channel, my friend. I am Richard Genders and you are watching the board gaming channel Genders Gaming, where we do playthroughs of games. I teach you how to play games and sometimes we just talk about games. But today I am going to make a how to play video for you on the epic game Godtear from Steam Force Games. This is a two-player game where you compete against the other player by using your champions, your minions, to try to collect the tears from the fallen gods. I'm going to show you the setup of this game. I'm going to give you a how to play video here on how to play this game. So once you have watched this video, you will be ready to try to collect the tears from those gods. So let's just have a look at it. This is the setup of the board if you choose to start with the scenario life. This is the scenario that is recommended for you to start with if you're new to the game of Godtear. You place the big board in the middle, you place the tiles as showing in the scenario, and then each player chooses which warband they would like to portray as. If you are a new player, it's recommended that you choose one champion and that champion's followers. Once you become more comfortable with the rules, you can play with 2 or 3 champions. Out here you have the battle ladder and you should choose your player token according to the scenario setup. Out here we have the battle ladder tokens and number 1 should be placed on the battle ladder. And then number 2, 3, 4 and 5 should be placed next to number 1. Each player also takes the different tokens and place them next to their player board for easy reach. Next to the board we also have some attack dice. Then each player takes the 3 cards belonging to their champion and place them on the down parts of their player board. On the far left we have our champion's cards with the champion's stats. In the middle we have the champion with the champion's traits, and to the far right we have our followers' stats. The first player is determined at random, and then the first player gets to place out their warband on the deployment tiles first. The way you would do this is that the first player places out its champion and the followers belonging to that champion. Then the turn would go over to the second player and they would do the same thing. If we would have had more than one champion, this is the time when the first player would put out that warband as well, and then the second player, going back and forth until all champions and followers are out on the board. The deployment tiles are the 2 starting rows on the boards, opposite to each other. That was the setup of this game. It goes quite fast. Of course, if you have more champions and more followers here, it might take a little bit longer time, but still it goes pretty fast. The champion here, the big one, is the one that stands on its own hex. It cannot share hex with any of the others, but the followers can actually share a hex. And they can be up to 3 followers on the same hex. And you can see this because they fit perfectly within one hex, and the big champion fits perfectly within its own hex. So now that we've done the setup, we put out the board, we put out the tiles, the different cards, we are ready to actually start playing this game. But before we start getting into the play, let's take a look at the cards. This is your dashboard, and you will lay your cards just like this, having your champion out here on the left, and you can see the different stats. In the middle you have the trait card of the hero, and here you have the followers. Up in these fields here is where you will place status tokens giving you blights or boons or wound tokens, showing that you have taken damage. If we start with taking a look at our champion's stats, we can see the name down here. Up here we can see the champion's speed, dodge, shield, and health. This up here shows that this card is for a champion. Down here we can see which face this side of the card is used, because these cards are double-sided. One darker side and one lighter side. I will tell you more about this in a bit. Down here in the last section we can see this champion's skills. And if we look at this champion's trait card, we can see the name again down here. Up here we can see the origin of this champion. Here we can see the class of this champion. This right here is a Slayer. Down here we have the ultimate skill of this champion. And once this is used, we flip the card to show that the ultimate skill have now been used. Down here we have the traits of this champion. And this last one here is our followers, the small minis out on the field. Again, we can see down here what name it has. Here we can see the different stats. Again, we have speed, dodge, shield, and health. Up here we can see the starting and maximum number of followers in this unit. Again, here we can see which phase this card is used in, as this one is also double-sided. These two first one up here is your followers' skills, and the last one down here is your followers' traits. The different blights or boons will add or subtract from your stats. So in the left corner of our champion and followers board, we have 4 stats. But what do they actually mean? Well, the top one is speed, meaning the amount of hexes the champion or followers may move. The second one is dodge, and this is the amount of hits an attacker would need to actually hit with their skill. The third one we have here is shield or protection, and this is the amount that the attacker needs to hit to break the shield and to actually make damage. Meaning that my followers here, for example, have a shield of 3. Meaning that the attacker needs to do at least 4 hits to actually hit the follower. And the last one is health, and that is the amount of damage that the follower or champions can take before they are knocked out. During this game you can also get boons and or blights. Boons are good and will add up to your regular stats, and blights are bad and will subtract from these stats. This game is about gods dying, because we do not believe in them anymore, we do not worship them, and in the end, one god smashes and kills them all. As they die, crystals come flying down from the skies, tearing up the world and landing everywhere. Us mortals see these crystals and understand that there's something great about them. So we start to collect them. The more we collect, the stronger we become. Eventually, some of these mortals turn into new gods. And the rest of the mortals out there starts to following these champions around. So your mission here is to pick up the falling tiers, the Godtears, that came down from the sky, pick them up and become the most vicious, strongest and best champion in this world. Now, this game is played out during 3 different phases. The first one is the plot phase, and this is where we get to move our little units around and try to plan ahead for what is coming. So we're in the plot phase, but what can you actually do in the plot phase? Well, you can take up to 2 actions with your followers and your champion. But remember I told you that these cards were double-sided, and in the plot phase we use the light side. Later in the clash phase, we will use the dark side. So once we have used our actions during this phase, we will flip these cards over, indicating that we are done. But what can you actually do? We can choose to move our models around on the board by using the advance action. We need to look at our followers' cards or our champions' cards to see how many hexes they can move. And we can move the models up to that amount. If we want to move our champion, for example, we simply take our champion and move it the amount of steps we would like to move. I mean, we could move in a straight line, we could move to the side or backwards, it doesn't really matter. The same thing with the followers. If we like to move them, we simply move each unit the amount of hexes we would like to move them. And remember that the followers can stand together up to 3 at the same hex if we would like that. So you can use the advance action to move around on the board. But you can also choose to use your followers or champions' skills. And this is where this game really shines. Here you can also move your followers around and use the different skills to attack your enemies and so on. So let's take a look at the skills and how they work. Now let's take a look at Morrigan's 3 different skills. She has Snowball's Chance, Ice Blade and Ice Bolt. Next to the skills we can see a symbol with a skull. These symbols represent which targets these skills can hit. The skull meaning that she can hit one target within range. If the text doesn't state anything else, she might be able to hit several targets. Out here we have 3 other symbols. The first one with the dots is how many hexes away this skill can reach. This skill can reach 1 hex away. And this one here is accuracy, meaning how many dice you need to throw to see if you actually hit. This is a hit and this is a miss. Next we have damage. This states how many dice you should roll to see how much damage you actually do. Each skill also have a special text showing what it actually does. Besides the regular skills, your champion also have one ultimate skill on their trade card. But this skill can only be used once during the entire gameplay. Once you have used it, you need to flip the card over to indicate that the ultimate skill have been used. Each champion and follower units have their own unique skills, meaning that there can be a lot of things going on out on the board. Here we only have 2 champions and 2 follower units, but could you imagine if we have 4 or 6 champions out there? There would have been so much going on, as these skills can do a lot of different things. You can, for example, move lights around to different players, you can move your units around, you can cause damage, you can interact with the beacons here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about these soon. There are a lot of things you can do while using skills. During the plot phase, and only during the plot phase, your champion can choose to do a claim action as well. Meaning that if they stand next to an objective hex that is empty, they can take their banner and place on that hex, indicating that now we have claimed this objective tile. Every now and then your champion unfortunately will become knocked out, meaning that you have received wounds equal to your health. When this happens, the attacker that have done the damage that caused the knockout gets to move the champion 2 hexes away. We also remove all of the tokens here above the champion to represent that, well, now they're not in the game anymore. So now everything's over, right? No, not quite, because during the next turn you can do a rally action, meaning that you will remove all of the wounds token from your champions and voila, it's back in the game again. So when your champion gets knocked out, they actually stay on the battlefield. They do not leave the battlefield, but they cannot do any actions anymore. They just stand there until they make a rally action. Then they become a part again. But if your followers gets knocked out, they actually leave the board completely. And the only way you can get them back is if another follower makes a recruit action. In that case, the follower pops back next to your champion. And that is the actions you can do. Once the first player is done with their actions during the plot phase, they turn the cards around to the darker side, putting the darker side face up, showing that now we're done with the plot phase. Then the second player does their movements and do the same thing. Again, we only have 1 champion each out on this field. So if we would have had several champions out here, we would have done this for each champion. The first player going first, moving their champion and that champion's followers, flipping the cards over. The second player would move their champion and that champion's followers, flipping the cards over, going back to the first player and using their second champion, and so on. Once we have gone through all the champions and we have flipped all the cards to the dark side, we go into the clash phase. In the clash phase, we do pretty much the same thing, but this time we use the skills on the clash phase card. And this is where it comes more into the action. The plot phase is more that we move into the right position, we try to adjust so we can reach the enemy or get out of the way for the enemy. And in the clash phase is where we use more attack skills, we break in, we don't move around that much, it's more battle. Once we have done the clash phase as well and flipped all the cards back to the white side, again going back and forward, going through all of our champions and have all the cards flipped up on the white side, we go into the end phase of the game. If a player has more points during the banner phase than the other player, that player who is the winner gets to move up the turn token on the battle ladder the same amount of steps that they had more points. Meaning that if I, for example, had 6 points here, but my opponents only had 4, I would get to move this turn token up 2 steps. If I, by the end of the end phase, have this turn token on my side of the board, I would get the point stated on the back side. And the one that lost this round gets to decide if they want to be the first or second player in the next round. And that's how you play Godtear. It's quite easy actually. I mean, you have the 3 different phases, you have the plot phase, and you use the right side of the cards, then you flip them over once you're done, the other player does their things, then we go into the clash phase, we do the battle, and we do the end phase. The player with the most scores at the end of the game is the winner, and that's really how easy it is. But as I said, once you have more champions out on the battlefield, the game will become more complex, and all of a sudden you need to start thinking about the other champion skills. What do they do? How does that interfere with the plan that you have in mind? How will you go about doing your different things that you wanted to do? Where will they end up? And so on. Also, you will have more of these banners out on the field itself. As you move up to the different scenarios, it will become more complex. There will be more objectives for you. And each scenarios will also have different rules that you need to follow. There is a lot of replayability in this game. I mean, just look at the sheer amounts of warbands here. And all of these have their different skills that you can use in different ways. When you have one champion, you use that skill, another one, and if you twist it around a little bit from game to game, you will have a different game every time. Different skills, different ways for you to go to victory, for you to come into battle if you want to be close to your enemy or further away. If you use more melee weapons or more ranged weapons, there's so much different ways for you to play this game or for you to get, hopefully, victory. The miniatures in this game are really well made and have great table presence out on the board. Once you have several champions out there, there's just so much going on and there's so much for you to keep track on, and it's a lot of fun to play this game. The game looks beautiful out on the table and never gets boring. There's always so much for you to do, so many skills for you to use, and different ways for you to try to win this game. So did I enjoy this game? Yeah, I did. But this is right down my alley. You have cool miniatures, you have fast gameplay, you have quite easy rules, but the game can be quite hard to master due to all of the different skills and different warbands. You might play one game one time and feel like, you know what, I got this is not that hard, and then the next time you get another warband and you just completely messed up. But that's the fun of it. And the board is just chaos when you have many warbands out there, many champions, many followers, but it's just so much fun, as you don't really know what's gonna happen during the next turn when your opponent makes a move, and then you might move to a step that you should not have moved to, and all of a sudden that champion is gone and you need to rally him up the next time. There's so much to do, there's so much replayability in this game, it's just a lot of fun. And you could sit down with a friend and just show the games in a few minutes. You don't need to sit down for an hour to go through the whole rulebook. Just show the simplest mechanic, how the skill works, how to do movements, and then, well, you're ready to start playing within minutes actually. There you have it, my friend. That was Godtear for you. This is a lot of fun, and I hope you enjoyed this one as well, just as much as I did. If you're into miniature, fantasy, fighting, area controlling games, this one is for you. There's also a lot of expansions out there for you to upgrade your warbands, to get new champions, new skills, and just evolve this game in a bunch of different ways. It is a lot of fun, high replayability, like I said before. I really enjoy this. I'm gonna get into this game some more, I'm gonna play this more, and I think that this will be in my collection for a long time. That was the video, my friends. If you liked the video, please give me a thumbs up. Please throw in a comment there for me what you thought about it. And if you like my channel, why not subscribe to it? It gives me a smile on my lips every time I get a new subscriber. Until next time, people, please keep on taking care of each other and keep on spreading that board gaming love I know you all have. Peace.